Welcome to Season 2 of the Crypto Pulse podcast, your ultimate guide to the world of crypto, Bitcoin, and world economics. We're here to guide you through the crypto universe with thought-provoking topics, in-depth knowledge, and information to help you make informed decisions. We'll also be interviewing some of the best minds in the industry, such as CEOs of crypto projects, traders, economists, authors, and development teams from around the globe. And now for the episode.
This episode is brought to you by Yield App, an innovative digital wealth platform that allows you to earn passive income on the world's leading digital assets with a single click of a button. Visit yield.app for more information. Hi, John. Welcome to Crypto Pulse. How's it going?
It's going fantastic today. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Ben and I are super excited to have you on the show. I've been fascinated with your platform for quite a while, actually. And I know we reached out to you a few weeks back and you kindly agreed to come on. But for those people that don't know about LunarCrush and what it is, maybe you could start off by just explaining what you guys do and what the platform is about.
Sure. So I'll go way back to, I've been in the crypto space since 2013 and long time here and, became fascinated with staring at market metrics. And looking at the trading volumes, doing TA, trying to understand where that next candle is going to go. But then realized, along the way that, staring at what moves price in crypto and what drives value in crypto. And so I think that led to us saying, what, we're discovering projects on social. We're discovering things that are happening, and yeah, sometimes they're bots, sometimes it's scams and spam and all that stuff. But what if we could clearly understand, how many times are people mentioning Bitcoin each day, and what if we could say like how many unique people were talking about Bitcoin? And we really started with Bitcoin, and we said, right. What if we could tell the sentiment? Are they positive today? Are they negative today? Who should we be following and who's most influential? So we started asking all these questions and realizing gosh, we're discovering Ethereum, we're discovering Monero, we're discovering Litecoin. And this was way back in the day. And so myself, Joe Vazani, who's our CEO, Dan and Isaac at the time, we kind of all got together. We were friends and said, hey, what if we could start to collect all this social data? And really an experiment for ourselves because we were investors and tried to understand ourselves. And so turns out we figured it out. And then we added more coins and then we added an interface and then we built a business. And so this went from, we all had great jobs and everything. And this went from hobby to business very quickly.
I love that. Scratching your own itch is a phrase that's used a lot in entrepreneurship, but it's amazing to see when it becomes successful because sometimes you can build something that's good for you and you think would be useful, but it's one thing doing that and then it's another thing building a business that, thousands of people across the globe are going to use.
Totally two different things, right? It's interesting to say all right, I think we got something here. And I'd still say even today, I mean, it's sort of you might think we're like a data company and we focus so heavily on the data. We reference ourselves as a user experience driven company because it just so happens if you were to, we're fans of CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko and Nomics and all these other services, and they do a really great job, but they're displaying market data only. We've got dozens of data points. And so it's not the same thing. We have a lot of different dimensions to display. And we look at this from the user experience side of how do we get better and better and make it so that the data makes sense? Social volume just moved up. Why? Why did it move up? What happened? What can you do about it? When should you be alerted? When should you know? And you can't really go to, 50 different coin detail pages and look at 30 different metrics each and just try and interpret. And so for us, we look at kind of that as a journey that's never done. And we're just really, that's the basis of our company is to try and get better and better and build more useful tools. And so, we're kind of there and, to talk about how this has scaled. I mean, we went from, it was a leap for us to leave our full-time jobs. And we did this about 3 years ago. And we got into Techstars, the accelerator program in Los Angeles. And,
nice.
At least in the Los Angeles kind of chapter office of it. And we said, you know what, let's leave our jobs. Let's go do this full time. At the time, I think we had dozens of users. And
Wow.
then we left 3 months later and had a few hundred. And then we kind of said, you know what, like we were thinking of, we actually were going to charge for our tool. And we actually had a few hundred people paying and $99 a month. And we were like, you know, this is
Wow.
great, but crypto's a baby. Crypto's not grown up yet. We have metrics that people don't even know they need.
Yeah.
And where we think we can probably get maybe a few thousand people to sign up and probably have a pretty profitable business, we didn't want that. We wanted millions. And so we actually took all payment down and said, you know what, we're going to figure this out over time based on where the crypto industry is at. It's early. We're going to raise funds. And we did, and we scaled the business. And in October, we had about 175,000 users. Today we're going to approach 3 million today. So
3 million
exponentially.
Oh
Yeah. Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. Okay, I didn't know it was that many. I knew it was a popular platform, but that's staggering. So I have some questions. I have so many questions actually, but
Same.
Okay, Ben, do you want to go? Because I'm going to steal the show otherwise.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, first of all, Jon, just to say congratulations. I mean, it's no mean feat what you guys have pulled off, and it's very impressive. I've every time I look at LunarCrush, it's kind of one of those companies that I wish I had built. But just a question around kind of like what is the business model? I mean, if you guys decided to move away from that monthly subscription piece, raise some funds, build this thing out, like what was the thing that attracted those investors?
We're just really nice. I mean,
yeah, you're just so just really,
that's where I've gone wrong. I need to be
that's
less
where
of an
I've gone wrong. Yeah, been pitching all wrong.
Yeah, if you smile enough, people just throw money at you. It's great.
All right, top tip.
Yeah, so we looked at really like what we wanted to do was not just as we grew, we could have thrown banner ads all over our site, right? And that's a very web 2.0 way of looking at the world. And what we realized was, you know what, that like we're seeing NFTs pop up, we're seeing DeFi pop up, we're seeing all these things happen, over the last kind of year and a half ish kind of thing. And we're like, you know what, like we don't want to just build another like what might be referenced as like CoinGecko. Again, no offense to them, like what they do. Think they're a great platform, but it's very different than what we do. And I'll give you an example. We launched a new dashboard yesterday. And our dashboard and what we do is much more feed-like. It's much more about a narrative, a trend that equals a lot of different frequencies of posts. And we collect millions of posts a day. That is a very different thing than saying going to like the CoinMarketCap homepage, which is a table. Right? Here's the top market caps. Here's the numbers you should be looking at. That is a completely different side of crypto than looking at the narratives going on out there on social. And so what we said was, let's keep scaling. We're funded. Let's keep scaling. But we know that we want to build something that's more crypto native for a business model. And we want our community to participate in that model. And we knew that we wanted to launch a token, and not just a token that was like some sort of nasty fundraiser or anything like that, but we wanted to build a token that was true utility baked into the platform, baked into what users are doing. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to make the activities that were tied to that token benefit the platform. For example, we launched the token October 20th, and one of those things is we launched an opinions tool. And so users are incentivized to provide opinions on certain things. And that's one task of many different things. And they're also training, they're saying like, great, there's this article about Cardano, and is it bullish or is it bearish? Is it good for Cardano or is it bad for Cardano? And so what we've done is we're saying like, that's just an example, and there's more things we're doing. But like, how do we get the feedback from this community to strengthen our data? And so like what's actually happening in the background is that community is strengthening the data, the machine learning models to make our bearish and bullish sentiment smarter. at scale. So that's just an example of like of one thing. Another thing that we're going to be doing is like, really letting you provide feedback. Do you like this post or do you not? And providing a feed that's much more contextual to you. We also launched like a DeFi tool, staking, I should say. Staking is our first thing. We launched this 10 days ago, LunarFi, where users that earn this Lunar every day, they can now stake it and earn yield on it. And so like we're sort of building, there's many, many more things ahead, but we knew that the token itself, there was a business model around it from a utility perspective. Now, where this is really going and where the company makes money, but also users get rewarded with it, there's a whole B2B side of this, if there's such a thing in crypto. There's an industry side of what we're doing. Just so happens that we actually broke 2 billion page views last month with a B.
Wow.
And putting us in we're a top 2,000 site in the world. And so that much traffic, again, we could have just slapped banners on, right? And made lots of money, but we're not doing that. And so there are opportunities that we want to work with the industry to really get in front of a wider crypto audience. And so when we look at that, we know that there's ways to monetize that, and there's ways to even monetize that through Lunar, through our token. And so, this is sort of the vision that we've painted to investors and everything. But like, we even know that, what's actually really exciting is working with other partners within our platform, working with coins, working with exchanges, that could provide opportunities to our users as well. So, those entities may pay to be in front of our users. However, those users could be rewarded with incentives from those partners. So we're sort of kind of looking at that, and we haven't even launched that yet. So we haven't even launched a whole B2B side of our industry. You'd be shocked too, by the way. Like, I can't tell you, like our biggest request so far that we've had to deal with and support is, can you update my logo? Can you, like, even managing a crypto brand is a nightmare right now. Trying to get it updated on these various platforms out there takes months. So
yeah, it's fascinating. I guess, I mean, when I look at what you guys are building, I guess for the first time ever, the investment space or crypto specifically, some of the stuff that's going on with communities and the social and online, it's sometimes more important than what's going on with a project's fundamentals or development or projects. The price can sometimes swing wildly based on just what's going on with the communities. And I don't think anybody's really ever addressed, how that changes the dynamics of a market. Are you guys ever thinking about taking what you've built for kind of like the traditional sector, thinking about, like stocks and, the S&P? I mean, is that something that you'd ever try and integrate?
So we've talked about this. So there's a couple things. So for example, let's pick on stocks. Stocks don't trade 24/7, 365.
Very true.
And
How
people,
boring.
yeah. And so like from like calculating social's impact on price movements and things like that, that's a little tougher because, there's also like pre-market, after hours trading, like there's different sorts of things. There's even synthetic assets that we're seeing pop up, right? And so like there's all sorts of different things going on in the stock market. There's also this, there's dark pools, there's all sorts of crazy insanity around stocks. Could we track social activity for stocks? Absolutely. Is that an asset class we could consider? Yes. Have we so far focused our efforts there? No. Where we're much more focused is like NFTs, where we haven't even launched social tracking for NFT collections. So that's an area we're focused on versus like other asset classes. I'm even I'd be interested to track fiat currencies, and be able to correlate that to crypto metrics as an example. So I think that would be, I'd almost rather see us do that than I would stocks. Because I'd want to see like, hey, like, this domestic currency, how does that compare relative to Bitcoin social activity? Are people talking about, currency in Turkey, or in China or wherever. That's pretty interesting stuff. So
you mentioned you have, I think it was 12 different data points. Is that correct? Did you say 12 different data points that you draw your analysis from?
Yeah. So it depends. I mean, technically, I think there's 23 total, but they're not all social.
I was going to ask, like, what are some of those, and like how? Obviously, I know this is part of your algorithm,
secret source.
Yeah, definitely your secret source. But just from a layman's perspective, like, what are the types of things that you track, and are they all weighted in the same way? So, for example, like people talking about a specific coin on Twitter using the hashtag would be, in my mind, quite a straightforward metric, but I'm sure there's lots of other things that are less straightforward. So what are some of the main things you track, and are they all weighted in the same way?
Great question, and happy to be fully transparent about what we track. So let's take Bitcoin, right? Let's start with your Twitter feed, right? You go to Twitter and you're following a certain number of people, right? Now, what you're going to see is what they're saying. Those people that you're following, maybe a few degrees away, their retweets, etc. You're definitely not seeing every single mention of Bitcoin at the moment, right? And you have no like quantitative understanding of, is it higher or lower than yesterday? Is it more positive or more negative than yesterday? And so you can kind of think of what we do is we go from that on your feed to, and we collect everything, every single mention of Bitcoin across every user, every day, every minute. And we bring that in and we memorialize it. And so what we're looking at like, the ticker is BTC. We're looking at if just someone says BTC, if they say Bitcoin, if they say BTC ticker, hashtag BTC, hashtag Bitcoin. We're looking at a lot of different mentions, trying to get every mention of it. And it's not always so straightforward. It's pretty easy with Bitcoin. Right. But some coins, and this goes back to strategy, brand strategy. A lot of projects don't even know what that means. And they launch with a duplicate name, a duplicate ticker. We do our best to get around that as best we can. We use machine learning to understand and look at patterns best we can. Imperfect and always will be. But close, as close as we can get. It's their fault and their problem. No different than if you're trying to get. It's literally not a LunarCrush problem. It's like if you name your coin bread, you're going to get all sorts of different nonsense, right? And so we work our way around that as best we can. But like the problem is, I would say, if it were easy, Google would have solved it as well.
Right. It's the same as the search engine problem from years ago, where people with SEO. People trademark stupid SEO and stupid things that they would call their company that, like fishbowl or something. And it's like you're now getting 1,000 images for just random stuff, which is not what you want.
Totally agree. And I think this is one of the inherent challenges of crypto. A lot of these projects are started by brilliant engineers. They're awful at branding and don't know the first thing about it. And then they bring someone in and they're like, oh, wait, what? Like, you called yourself bread. You called yourself chicken. You called like whatever it is. And so, and then the engineer wonders why they're also not ranked on Google for chicken. But so it's the same problem. We do our best to get at it. And sometimes it's easier than others. But if you look at kind of that as a starting point, where we got this fire hose of data, and we're looking across many different social platforms, Twitter, it ends up being a lot more than Twitter. It ends up being like we have probably the largest, not probably, we do have the largest collection of crypto news in the world because of how we go about collecting news. And we can tell you also which ones are shared the most. So great, we're looking at thousands of crypto-specific news sites, but which ones stand out? Why? Yeah. 9 articles about Elon tweeting about Dogecoin, but the CoinDesk one got the most shares at that moment. That's important. That's important to know. And so we kind of look at this. This starts with the mentions, but then we kind of go a lot deeper and look at other dimensions beyond that. We say, so great, there was 500,000 Bitcoin mentions yesterday. And that came from 350,000 unique users across social channels. And in those posts that were posted, and by the way, the majority, we're talking 80% plus of social activity tends to happen on Twitter for crypto.
Right.
And that's just what it is. There's other stuff in other places, but YouTube and all that stuff, and we track all of it, but it's really majorly Twitter. And so how many people were, say, if we're picking on Twitter, tweeting like about it that day? And that's the number of users. And then we look deeper and say, well, great that I talked about Bitcoin. But if, Adam Back or one of these people talk about Bitcoin, they're going to get a hell of a lot more engagement than I am. And so we look at the engagement, the comments, the retweets, all of that stuff. And then we look at all of it together, and we have a library we've built out from scratch and has been trained and continues to get trained, looking at sentiment and looking at spam as well. So were these spammers that we're posting? It's a spam post, and we actually
it's got to be a huge
spam,
problem.
Well, we track spam as a metric, and it gets excluded from social volume.
Does it have a negative effect on the, like? No, I guess it wouldn't penalize a particular coin or something, would it? Because if I was if I was a dodgy creator of a coin and I wanted to create my social engagement higher for that cash tag, I'd just use lots of spam and bots.
Much like Google did. I mean, they actually built that into the algorithm, that they would penalize people for using black hat techniques that would drive things up the rankings.
So does LunarCrush do that in some way?
So it's interesting you bring up Google there, because I mean, you got to give them some credit for trying to like level that playing field and clean things up, right? And like, it's funny, like here we are with especially Twitter, but it's really all over the place, man. Like YouTube, there's a ton of nonsense on YouTube as well. And like, when you look at it, very little's been done. And this is like, Elon's argument basically, right? There's very little that's been done. When we post every single post, there are dozens of bots that respond and scam projects with, join our Telegram and send your Bitcoin here to this address. And like, it's crazy, right? Fairly easy to recognize. It's the same patterns. This isn't crazy. It's a lot harder to say, like, recognize bullying or violence. Like bullying could be an emoji that's specific to that user. Like, and you can't tell. Like, but if someone's posting their wallet address and a Telegram link, and it's literally the same patterns.
Right.
So Twitter has a long way to go. But back to your question, Kevin, about what happens when there's a lot of spam. You'd be very surprised. We tend to see, if you're talking about does price move when there's a lot of spam, you tend to see when there's an increase in spam that prices move up. Tend to.
Interesting.
And I think when you look at that, it seems like a pretty simple answer. It seems like there are parties at play that want things to move a certain way, so they flood the market with certain narratives. And so sometimes it's not spam, sometimes it's influencers posting. Like I'm not going to mention certain projects, but we see trends and then you see spikes up, and then wouldn't you know, a week later it goes quiet and the price falls.
Well, you could look at something like Doge, for example. Right. Last year when a certain very well-known entrepreneur was talking about Dogecoin, and the amount of social engagement on that was ridiculous. And I was thinking, oh, I wish I had some, and I didn't. And I thought, gosh, I know so many of my friends and family are going to be like, oh, shall I buy some Doge now? And I won't tell anyone what the answer was, but you can kind of imagine what it might be. So kind of on that basis, does LunarCrush give any sort of help or advice in terms of how to use this data and this information to empower people to make better decisions, or does that cross the line?
So there's a few things we've got. So one is we have automated insights that look for anomalies in data. And so like on our coins, like on our coin detail pages, if there's something that's a standout thing, there isn't always, but if there's a standout thing, like, hey, like social volume is 200% above what it's been the average of the last 90 days kind of thing. Like, hey dude, go check this out. We bring that into the dashboard. We bring that into coin detail pages. We bring that into your favorite coins as well as all coins, so you can discover new things. Those insights are like really, really powerful because they at least are like an FYI, an alert. Dude, go check this out. Something you may not have even known, right? Like a coin you may have never looked at before is firing
Right.
off with a lot of engagement. What's happening? What's going on? It's at least an alert to say, hey, you might want to go see what's going on over here. And so we kind of stop at that moment. In a sense,
Yeah, sure.
we don't like facilitate the trade. We don't do any of that stuff. We just are like, you might want to check this out. We also let users create alerts when they want to set certain specific parameters. That's another thing that we do. And another is we have some key metrics that we look at. One is called Galaxy Score, which looks at the health of that specific coin over time. So generally speaking, if it's like above 80, it's like really bullish. Like it's wow, like there's a lot of good social and combined market activity going on just this one coin. And that's something you should look at. And so we kind of take many different social and market metrics and combine them into a proprietary score called Galaxy Metric for that coin. The other thing we do, which personally I say is the single best metric in all of crypto, period. And I'll tell you why. It's called AltRank. And so AltRank looks at combined social and market activity relative to the entire market. And it ranks coins. So it's like winning a race. So if you're number one, you're the strongest, number two, number three, et cetera, gold, silver, bronze, all that. And like, if you look at coins that tend to pop up that weren't maybe they were like ranked 250, and all of a sudden you'll see them fall to like 9. And you're like, what's going on? Something happened. Price didn't move. What happened? Well, you're seeing increased social activity. You might even see market volume going up, and maybe price isn't even up yet. But like, you're starting to see these things where this combined activity relative to every other coin is standing out. And why I say I think this is the best the best metric is not just because, everyone loves to tell you what's going to moon. No one wants to talk about what happens when the market dumps, right? And we all sit here and squirm for 3-6 months at a time and go, oh, I'm ruined. I got to file bankruptcy. I'm not going to pay my taxes. I'm not going to, we have all these, we're sad, right? And so no one wants to talk about that. Well, it just so happens that when those times occur, we tend to see stable coins ranking sometimes as high as number 1. And when we've seen certain patterns where there's a lot of stable coins with very strong alt ranks together, meaning they're beating Bitcoin, they're beating altcoins, they're beating everything. And it's not just market activity. It's not just market activity. It represents when everyone's talking about them too. It means that that's actually probably the strongest, we would need to do more studies on this, but it's probably the strongest bearish metric bottom indicator that I've seen. Because if everyone's talking about these coins, which are stable coins, when do people talk about stable coins? They don't talk about stable coins when the market's mooning. So when they're talking about these things and it's beating everything, it's a bottom signal. And we tend to see a lot of stable coins in it. It has marked a bottom signal almost every time over the last year that we've been monitoring it. So it's something to look at. And that is why, any good investor will tell you that protecting your wealth is more important than making gains. The great investors are happy taking 10% on something that goes up 80 because they're in the money, safe. They're saying they can go to bed at night. But if you're overexposed in a down market, you can lose 90% plus.
Yeah,
and so
easily.
In crypto, it could be in a day too. So,
right. Yeah. That's just a bad weekend.
But yeah, we do a lot of things to help users kind of understand these things, and we're going to do a lot more. We have a long ways to go. We're not done making this easy to use.
Yeah, nice. I mean, it sounds like for some of our listeners who are traders, perhaps this is kind of just this really is a tool that you should be using as part of a trading strategy or even an investment strategy. I mean, if you're trying to sort of figure out where to place some money or what's going on with the market, some of these social indicators are probably more important than maybe just looking at the charts, for example.
I'd say it's crypto analytics in general as a trend, is going to be a trend, right? There's going to be a lot more focus on analytics here, but it's complicated, right? I mean, there's a lot of things there's on-chain activity. We'll be doing some more things with that in the future, but like the number of wallets being used, the number of transactions, the number of holders, where are those, is that trending up or down? Is it flat? Like all of those things, we see these things all the time, like the number of Bitcoin on exchanges. Like we see all these things. I'm skeptical. of a lot
Same.
of it.
It always feels a bit like reading tea leaves to me. I mean, the people that profess to be sort of on-chain experts, it's all a bit sort of voodoo and doesn't quite add up to what's going on with price action. But I guess there must be some useful stuff in there.
It's just really more like painting a picture.
Yeah.
You know, like LunarCrush is a tool in an arsenal of tools that you should have.
Right.
That has its place around community activity. I would say, like, you know, even market, I like what CoinMarketCap does. I think that they actually have some really useful things on their site. That's a tool. You know, there's lots of tools. There's tons of, Masari has some really great tools, and we talk to them every now and then. And like, it's more or less like trying to paint a picture over time. And I think a lot of investors, because it's crypto, have this kind of impatient perspective of make me a millionaire today, not a year from now.
Right.
And I've got $5 to invest. And if it doesn't go up 800% tomorrow, I'm going to tweet out that it's a scam. Right. And so we've got this impatience, but the reality is the good investors, if you're going to be sustainable in this business and be in this space, I should say, it takes a toolbox, and it takes patience, and it takes time. And I would say the same thing goes if you're looking at LunarCrush. You don't show up to LunarCrush one day, look at a chart, and go, I got it, I'm done. I'm a millionaire now. I'm done. I don't need this anymore. It's like over time doing things, being part of a community. I mean, another perspective aside from making money is if you're spending hours on social media, especially Twitter all day, who should you be following? And we track the most influential people per coin and across the whole market. And so that's a great place to start. And that's, you know what, it makes your life better if you're looking at your feed, which is less full of people that maybe have zero track record on getting any engagement on their posts, that have no following, that have no activity. They're posting once in a while. It's not really the greatest follows for yourself.
I love that tool. I love it because I was on it. I was ranked on the Cardano influencer list. I know I go on about it. Yeah,
you go on about it.
Like, yeah, I was like, well, that's cool. And
did you see on the Cardano? Is that what you said?
Cardano.
Cardano, yeah. Or Cardano or
Cadena.
Okay.
How do you guys say it? Cadena. Okay.
You know, we have them on our show tomorrow.
They're amazing.
We had them on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we must have pronounced it every which way, including them. So we maybe need to come to an agreement on what we're calling it.
I will ask them tomorrow the proper way to pronounce it. So that's
thanks.
Great.
Yeah, they just had a big
project.
announcement today. Yeah, really exciting. I think they saw something today. They like $100 million fund for developers, which is going to be really awesome. I can't wait to speak to them about that.
Bizarrely, Paul from Cardano has messaged us saying, "Hey, can we come on and talk about the grants? It's $100 million grant, isn't it, that they're offering for developers?"
Yeah.
So, anyway, I digress. But yeah, I like the influencer tool. I thought it was cool, and it also allowed me to go and find other people that were interested in that project and follow them as well. So yeah, I thought that was a really smart tool. So I'd encourage people to go and check that out.
Yeah, I mean, if for no other thing other than just that tool, that is worth checking out LunarCrush, and like just build your feed off of people that seem to know what they're talking about more than others in crypto, which again, over time, to say that like you're like a top 10 influencer over the last year, that doesn't just magically happen with a magic tweet. That doesn't happen if you're Justin Bieber. Like it takes frequency, and it takes engagement in those posts from other crypto people too. A good example would be like, you remember J.K. Rowling like a year ago? Remember that?
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, she was like bombarded. Like everyone gave her the worst introduction to crypto I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was. She's an interesting one on Twitter. I mean, she's been cancelled like a few times in the last few years as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, but like at the moment, she just I don't even remember what she tweeted, but like I don't know if she asked, "Hey, tell me about Bitcoin," and then she asked about Ethereum or something, and then like Vitalik responded, and then like all the Bitcoiners said, like, "No, don't focus on Ethereum, focus on Bitcoin," and it was absolute like nonsense in the thread. And you go back and like, is she an expert at Bitcoin or Ethereum? No, she's not. However, from an influence standpoint, for those few days, she was extremely influential. And what happened? Well, she frequently posted about Bitcoin and Ethereum. She got tons of engagement from also top influencers, and then she kept going. And I would argue, like, is anyone an expert at this space, or are we all just learning? And like there are people, but then she went away, right? But then she went away, and that means that she's off the list. Versus like, CZ, who's constantly up there, who's constantly out there promoting the community in general, and every single post with frequency gets a ton of engagement, and his following is relatively strong. You tend to CZ is going to outweigh J.K. Rowling, right? And so over time. So, but you do get some interesting short-term things versus like the longer-term influencers for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it seems to be sort of the cool thing for celebrities to be tweeting about at the moment, especially at times where they've got things they want to promote. Seems like an interesting
like Lindsay
correlation.
Lohan, you mean?
Like Lindsay Lohan.
Start talking about crypto. I mean, we joke. It's like when some of these celebrities start like tweeting about a coin or a project or something that they've launched, we're like, that's
time
potentially a top signal. Would LunarCrush agree? That is a good question.
I think I've got a few perspectives on it, and I would say it depends. Like when Lindsay Lohan is tweeting, I remember, I think it was the worst NFT that I've seen that she like was launching like a year ago or something.
Doesn't surprise me.
I'm scared a little bit about that kind of stuff. Snoop Dogg's an interesting one. He has to have a clone or something. I don't understand. Like he's super into NFTs and seems to be partnering with all these projects. He must be making a ton of money. Like Steve Aoki, when you see these people that are sort of like Steve Aoki's like a native to the space. It feels like he collects trading cards. This is his thing. Like it just feels right. Versus some celebrities are kind of just a cash grab.
Yeah. Or it's a cultural bandwagon that they want to jump on. So if and we see that when a lot of pop stars and celebrities get involved in politics, they go for like they back a particular political ideology or campaign or whatever, or social activism thing, and I think that they think they can get more exposure. So I do question a lot of these celebrities, and like, what are you really, what is your game really? Is it financial? Is it influence? Is it both? It's probably those two things really.
Yeah, I think like it's sure. I mean, there's really a lot of those aspects, right? Like we represent the social dimension of crypto. Like that's where we play, and I think when you look at what we're also trying to do on the other side, I mentioned earlier from like an industry perspective, there's a lot of really amazing projects that launch out there. Mm-hmm. They have really amazing ideas. They have really amazing teams, and they have a lot of dedication. They're not going anywhere. Like they really want to push. We want to help the industry grow. And right now, that's a really difficult thing to do. If you were to say, you know what, I've got this really great idea to launch a DAO, and there's NFTs involved, and there's this token involved, and we're going to build it and launch it in next 3 months. What do you do? What's your plan in a sea of 18,000 coins, and I don't even know how many NFT collections there are? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so we want to help the next generation of like projects and the existing ones to kind of take things to a new level, to communicate with their audience, to understand what's going on. And I say this is a really big, it's a really big deal because we interview projects every week. We have our own show. We do a live stream every week, and we meet with dozens of others. And it's an interesting discussion when you look at, well, what are your key performance indicators you look at? Like how do you judge success? How do you know when your project is successful? We get a different answer from every single project.
Yeah, I guess it's different. It is different. I mean, it depends if you're an engineer, are you an investor, do you come from a TradFi background? I mean, success is different depending on what you want to achieve. I guess some people want to create the greatest protocol, the best DAO, the best community. All of those things are different, right?
It is, but it's all like, the typical answer we get is, well, number of holders of our token.
Okay.
Well, number of transactions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's an interesting topic because, like I've worked for large automotive companies, large software companies, huge companies in the past. And it's like, oh, well, they have a data science department. They have an analytics team. They have a business intelligence unit. They have reports that go all the way up to the CEO, and they have JavaScript being tracked all over every single digital property they have. And it's giving them data on the users. That's a Web 2 way of looking at the world. And so now here we are, everyone's going decentralized, Web 3, and they don't even know what to look at. And so we're heavily focused there on, at least back to that community dimension, helping those crypto entities. I won't even call them companies because a lot of them aren't. These entities understand what's going on and putting community first. And so we're focused heavily on arming them with an understanding of who their users actually are, and what's going on and what is the community doing. Which currently, again, I just phrase it, if you guys were to say, I'm launching a project in 3 months, and you're going to pitch investors, and those investors are like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to make money? You're like, no, we're not going to make money. The value is going in our token. Well, can I get a lot of your token then? Well, why do they need that token? Are they going to dump it? Like, what are you going to tell them that how are you going to say you were successful or not? And all of that has changed. And I think that's a big, humongous deal from the industry perspective. Because otherwise everything looks shiny and great, right? Like, and then you go and look, you're like, wow, they have 3,000 holders total. They've got no one using their app. They've got, and I think that's an interesting thing to expose to people.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, it's kind of the same as the sort of startup culture in Web 2. It's like these founders that have ideas. They go out, they raise some money, they build a product, and actually, there's not a lot of transparency with some of these sort of traditional startups. You don't always really see how many users they've got. It's really easy to kind of fake some metrics, and I see that a lot when I'm speaking to companies that are raising money. But there is a difference actually with Web3 and blockchain and some of these projects, in that data is publicly available, and what you guys are doing to add value to that stack with some of the social commentary and social data, I think is a really powerful thing. And I think if all of that is used correctly, actually you can empower retail investors in a way that they've never been empowered before. It's a game changer.
That's on the one side, and the other is if we can empower the projects themselves to understand their community better, then they can better connect with that community. They can give that community what they need, what they want. And hopefully this leads to things like, you were mentioning earlier the fund that Cadena has. And I mean, we've talked to, I don't even know how many billions of dollars in venture capital basically is going into building projects on these chains. It's unbelievable, whether it's coming from layer ones or just traditional VCs or exchanges. It's like the world has never seen this. Like, this is just unbelievable. And I would go and say, like, do we need another DeFi like platform? Do we need another DEX? And do we really need to be touting TVL still? Like, that's it? It's just TVL. It's APY, APR. Like, that's it. I think we need more. And so I think that's where this becomes and is going to become an issue, because there's so much money entering the market to build dApps that don't even know what success looks like. And I can confirm this because we talk to all these projects.
Sure.
And they're all saying different things. And so that's the next leg of this. Out of this mess will probably come $1 trillion companies or entities, right? But it's a wild west right now for sure.
It's an exciting time to be part of that journey, though. I mean, to be kind of building in the foundations of what is to come. It's an incredibly exciting time to see what you guys are doing. I guess just to sort of wrap things up, I don't know if we had any questions from the community or team that we wanted to get over, Kev.
I'm just thinking time-wise. I've had a number of people ask about NFTs. So I know we've spoken about NFTs a little bit during this interview so far. But when are you looking to integrate NFTs into the platform? And I guess a question from me to follow on from that is like, how different is that from standard crypto tokens in terms of implementing it?
Yeah, I'm so excited about it because NFTs are inherently community driven. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot more community driven than coins. People have a relationship to their NFTs. You know, it's a psychological one. You know, if you hold a Bored Ape, not only you could look from the outside and go, wow, they made a lot of money, but from the inside, they view it as part of a culture. Not even owning an ape, they think they're part of culture. That's why when we talk about like celebrities, like that's why Jimmy Fallon and Paris Hilton and on and on and on own Bored Apes, right? They want to be part of that culture because that's part of being a celebrity, right? And if you're not a celebrity, it makes you feel like you're part of that same group. Like there's a belonging. In fact, the Bored Apes is a perfect example of what's going on. Like we track activity for ApeCoin, but we're going to start tracking it for all of those collections, including Mutant Apes, the Kennel Club, all that stuff as an example. And so I'm curious what this all nets out to be, but we're going to be tracking collections, not individual NFTs, the mentions of one, but the collections themselves. And we'll give a lot of other data around it. We're looking, I'm going to say end of May-ish, beginning of June, something like that is when we're focused on getting that out there. And team's building it right now. So, it's going to be really, really fun to see kind of some of these things trend, especially over time. You know, I can't wait to see, like, again, I'm going to use Bored Apes as an example. I can't wait to go back at like roughly a year, I guess, on that one and watch that grow. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Well, I think we better wrap up for today. Thank you so much, Jon, for coming on. That was just, I think you answered all of the questions that we had and some that people had sent to us as well. So I think it was a really comprehensive overview of the platform. So if people want to get involved with LunarCrush, what do they need to do?
Just head to LunarCrush.com, as well as follow us on LunarCrush on Twitter. And it's simple as that.
Perfect. Maybe we'll get you on the show when you've launched the NFT platform. That would be cool. We can talk about it.
Happy to come back.
Perfect. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. It would mean the world to us if you could leave a review wherever you're listening. This really does help and allows other people to find us online. You can keep up to date with new releases of the podcast by subscribing and following us on Twitter or Instagram for the latest crypto-related news. Information provided by Crypto Pulse via this podcast, website, social media channels, and any other medium does not constitute financial advice, investment recommendations, or any other type of advice whatsoever. The Crypto Pulse team are not professional financial advisors. Trading and purchasing cryptocurrencies do carry risks, and anybody wishing to partake in such activities should seek professional advice.